Riddel, Director with GeoScience Australia. Thanks for joining us on Australia in Space TV.
Very welcome.
And welcome to the IGNSS Conference Day 1.
Isn't it fantastic? The room has been packed so far,
Yes.
and it's been really hard to pick which parts of the program to go for. We're about to head into our first parallel session, so far the choice has been turn up for the keynotes, and they have been fantastic. But the choices are now starting to become quite difficult as all of the parallel sessions come together.
Well, even that last session, I haven't got her name in my mind just yet, but from the University of Colorado Boulder,
Yes.
fascinating session on machine learning using satellite data. But maybe GeoScience Australia, give us a little bit about your role as Director, and we've also got some news, I understand.
We do indeed. So the work area that I'm in is around GNSS Analysis, so Global Navigation Satellite System, and the analysis of all of those signals of opportunity. And the exciting news that we have to announce is the version 3 release of our open source positioning toolkit, which is called Ginan. So this is a piece of software that you can go and download from GitHub, and it allows you to calculate the orbits of navigational satellites and others. We've included the ability to calculate the orbits of low Earth orbiting satellite platforms, and it essentially gives you the capability to do precise point positioning with an open source Australian developed piece of software.
And this is free for anybody to use?
Free for anybody to use, and the call to action, I guess, for everybody here is if you are interested in contributing and collaborating with us, please reach out. With an open source piece of software, we're always looking for new additions, new functionality, but people in the community and the people that are interested in precise positioning can come and do that for themselves with Ginan.
I suppose what are some of the applications or end users? Obviously researchers, I imagine, might be using that, but any sort of commercial applications, do you think?
Yeah, I think there certainly are. So Ginan can be used on low-cost devices, so the idea that you can plug and play the piece of software. Some of the demonstrators that we've done already in the research space are around putting Ginan as the positioning engine onto a drone platform and also an autonomous surfboard. So we did a case study with the Australian Institute of Marine Science in collaboration with Frontier SI, where we put Ginan as the positioning engine, as the software on an autonomous surfboard and tracked it in real time, and compared that solution to sort of the traditional RTK method of positioning, and they were super comparable at the centimetre level. So Ginan in action, we also put it on a weather balloon and sent it up to the edge of space, so up to almost 30 k's in altitude, and that was profiling the troposphere and the zenith troposphere delay. So how wet is the atmosphere as you traverse up through it? And that has all sorts of societal applications around understanding, can you forecast weather events? Can you look at the properties of the ionosphere and the troposphere as you go through them? We heard some great examples from Professor Morton, who was just talking about machine learning and GNSS.
Great.
And so the idea that you could use Ginan as the processing engine to start identifying some of those features of interest. Because it's a PPP or a precise point positioning engine, you're able to parameterize all of those parameters of interest. So instead of double differencing and throwing them away, which is the more traditional method of GNSS analysis, you're able to actually pull out the properties of the ionosphere, what the signal interference is, what the orbital dynamics of that satellite platform might be.
Is it focused just on Australia or the Oceania, or is there international data or other data sets you can bring in?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of Ginan. It is an Australian developed piece of software, but you can use any data that you like with it. So if you think of it as the traditional sort of IGS or international style products where you get the satellite orbit and the satellite clock files, Ginan is capable of producing its own products, but also digesting all of the equivalent products from the variety of analysis centres around the world.
Right. I suppose maybe a more personal question. You're Director at GeoScience Australia.
Yeah.
What's your background and how did you get into the sector?
Yeah, so a long time ago, I did an undergrad in surveying through the University of Tas, and then got very interested in geodesy and earth physics and earth dynamics. So noted the graduate program at GeoScience Australia, went in through their graduate pathway, have been with GA ever since for over 12 years now. Took a bit of time out from working to go and do my PhD, so that was very much on looking and understanding the vertical land motion of the Australian tectonic plate. Are we sinking? Are we Are we rising?
Yep.
We're sinking.
That was my next question. Thank you.
It's not very much. It's about 0.8 of a millimetre per year, but that was done using our global GNSS network across Australia. So looking at all of the cores stations and understanding what signals can you pick out from that network. Is it spatial? Is it temporal?
Yep.
How are we moving?
Was it similar to what we saw this morning with the Hawaiian study in terms of what was happening with
very
the
much
volcano?
Yeah, so that's exactly the concept. You've got all of these beautiful stations installed all over the country, and they've been collecting data, some of them for almost 20 years. So you've got that time series of movement over how the continent is shifting. And so I was able to pull out all of that data, process it, and then crunch the numbers to find out that yes, we're sinking slightly. But that's important. Like 0.8 of a millimetre doesn't seem like much, but if you start realising that you need to understand vertical land motion to have a look at sea level, if you're thinking about sea level change at the millimetre per year measured with a tide gauge, that's attached to land and the land is moving. So you've got to sort of bring all of those elements together to be able to answer some of the big challenges of our lives.
Well, hopefully we've triggered some interest there from either the audience but also some of the participants here. We'll have a link to the GitHub link for, what's it called again?
Ginan.
Ginan, okay. And where's that name come from?
So it's a Waterman word, which comes from the some of the people up around the Katherine area.
Got it.
So the Waterman elders very kindly allowed us to use the word Ginan, which in Waterman means a red dilly bag filled with songs of knowledge. But most of the songs of knowledge were around navigating with the stars. So for us, the link was around having a piece of software that's for navigation, and it is a collection of tools, and so that collection in the dilly bag of tools that you can use for navigation.
And I tell you, do you just need a GitHub account? Is that where you
That's
can start
all you
from?
need.
Wow, okay.
Yep. The repository is entirely open source, so we've got lots of examples there, some example data sets that should be able to kickstart your journey with Ginan.
Well, Anna Riddel, Director with GeoScience Australia, thank you very much for joining us today on Australia in Space.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of the IGNSS conference.
I will do.